Can you hear me now? Okay, thank you. Welcome to the February 1st, 2024 meeting of the Riverfront Design Committee. My name is Ricardo Montoya. I am the chair of the committee. When called on, applicants and speakers will come to the front podium to speak. Only one person at a time should come to the podium. Do not approach the podium until vacated by previous speaker. Speak into the microphone, please, and identify yourself, and provide your address for the record when you begin speaking. Address your comments, questions, and testimony to the committee. Limit your comments to 3 minutes. It is unnecessary to repeat testimony previously given by others. Citizens may address the committee on agenda items by responding to chair's call for speakers during discussion on each item and signing the speaker's log on the podium. All comments must be relevant to the item. The chair or presiding officer may, in his or her discretion, prohibit a person from addressing the committee and or remove that person from council chambers if that person commits any disorderly or disruptive behavior. Please see the agenda for more information about these requirements. If you parked in the Sheridan Walker parking garage north of John Rex Elementary School or the Arts District parking garage immediately south of City Hall, staff can provide parking validation ticket to you. The agenda and documents are located at https://okc.primegov.com/public/portal. You would then select the Riverfront Design Committee meeting. Then click on an agenda item and the relevant documents will come up below the item. Keith, will you please call the roll?
Montoya.
Present.
Prado.
Present.
Dean.
Present.
Heisel.
Present.
Howard.
Present.
Lyons.
Present.
Postick.
Present.
Templeton.
Present.
We have quorum.
Thank you. Agenda item 2, approval of minutes, December 7th, 2023 meeting. Do we have a motion?
To approve.
Second.
And the second one was,
Prado.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Item passed.
And I caught that abstention, yes. Okay.
Item 3, cases withdrawn, none. Item 4, continuance requests, none. Item 5, consent docket, none. Item 6, cases for individual consideration, none. Item 7, SPUD 01593 at 1841 Exchange Avenue. Laura?
Thank you. Laura Griggs, Planning Department. This item is on your agenda for you to make a recommendation on a proposed rezoning, and your recommendation goes to the Planning Commission. I believe it's on their agenda for next week's meeting. And I'll just kind of run through. The rezoning is for what is currently 2 separate parcels. They're divided by a platted alley. They intend to come in to close the adjacent piece of alley and pursue vacation, I believe, in district court. And this is down at Penn and Exchange. Currently, this is the building that's on the property. And what you will see is they're wanting to add on to it and expand the parking area. And I just took several views looking. This is the area where they want to put the parking lot on the north. One of the reasons why I felt this picture was important is because of the location of the power pole. So that power pole is reflective of where the platted alley is. And that is one of the items that I mentioned in the staff report that I couldn't really clearly see where it was located. It's not on their proposed site plan because it's not showing up and they don't have an island there. Maybe they're proposing to move it. I'm not sure. I doubt it. I would think that's very expensive to do that work. It's at a busy intersection, if you're familiar with that area, and so I have some views looking directions from the intersection. And so what we have adjacent, so across the street, across Penn, that's actually not in your design district. That happens to fall in Stockyards Design District. And then we have across Exchange is a church, and I intended to call because I'm assuming the church is still operating there. Yes, they are. Okay, great. And then on the opposite corner, we have gas station, convenience store, laundromat. And then we have Westwood Elementary School, and you've had a couple of cases. It's been a while where they came through to put temporary buildings on that campus. It's a fairly large campus. It's immediately adjacent along Exchange. And then you have across Exchange, an older residential neighborhood in that area. And I will go back to, we'll just leave it there. So the request is, we have, part of this is R1, and that's the triangle to the north. And then the piece to the south, at the corner, it's zone C4, and then the majority of that property is zone C3. And they're wanting to rezone it to a SPUD, which has its own criteria spelled out in writing. And so the current building was constructed in 2006. It is currently utilized. I think it's called Empower OKC, that Lilyfield operates at that location. Lilyfield owns this property, and they're the owner of record for this rezoning, and they will continue to use that property. They're wanting to be able to use that north triangle for parking currently, and if they couldn't do it if they left it as R1 zoning. There's some issues dealing with parking that also resulted in them needing to get a SPUD as well. And so in a SPUD document, they list the permitted uses. Sometimes when we come before you with a rezoning to SPUD, there's a problem with the uses because if they're wanting to do something that Scenic River doesn't allow. And we've had some of those in the past. This one is not asking for any of those. So that made it very easy when I was looking at it as far as uses go. But there is one comment under uses that I made, which was, as staff said, we need to add parking lot as a permitted use because right now that's a separate parcel. At the time that I put together the staff report, I didn't have concurrence from the applicant, and I stated that in here. Since then, I got an email from them, and they said they're fine with that. So I wanted to point that out. So the other things to point out are items that we actually will be addressing when they come through for the required CEA at some point in the future. There's a lot of stuff in here about landscaping, because if you look at the drawing they have, it doesn't comply with the landscaping requirements, specifically landscaping requirements for a parking lot. The wording in the proposed SPUD would require them to comply with all the stuff that I listed in the staff report. So I don't have an issue with what this is. I just wanted to point out that what you're approving is actually the words. You're not approving the site plan that they have attached. They'll have to come forward with a certificate of approval, and that's where the actual site plan would get approved, and it has to comply with the words of the approved SPUD. So the other issue that I indicated in here, and I talked about it earlier when I started this, was the alley itself, and the fact that right now we don't have a CE application, which would also come before you. And so their site plan is showing that there's a parking space, there's the end of some parking spaces in the alley, and so absent getting a CE and vacation, there's stuff that they would not be able to do that they're showing. But they've indicated that that is their intent. There's also the overhead electric in the alley, and there's city sewer that runs in the alley. So staff is concerned about the closure of the alley, and I'll go into more detail of that when that application comes in. The main reason is because its impact, if you close it at that one, any of the other platted alleys that connect into there, they're blocked off at one end. And so there is a platted alley that runs north behind those houses that are there. That would be impacted. There's all kinds of alleys and even a platted street over on the school property, and they've got buildings on some of those. So I'm not really sure what's going on that. I would envision, at this point, given that the school is there, that there would be an alley that would be pushed through their property. But there's multiple alleys that run all directions, east and north, from what they're proposing. And I indicate it's possible that modifications to the parking lot site layout will be required if the closure is not approved. So staff is recommending approval to the Planning Commission with the condition that the master development statement be revised to include permitted use, automotive parking lots as a principal use. And so I had included in your packet the site plan where I had highlighted in yellow where the alley was, just to point that out. And I had also marked up the wording for the SPUD, and I highlighted in yellow where I had added that use, just so that it was very obvious. And that's the condition that I'm recommending. We do have representatives here from this application. The owner is here, as well as their design team is here. So do you have any questions for me?
Laura, I do have a question real quick. You mentioned the alley. Looking at going north of the site behind those residences, it doesn't look like it's an active functioning alley.
It is not. The
Okay.
Public Works Department allows alleys to be used even if they're not paved.
Okay.
However, it's been indicated that some of those property owners have fenced in parts of the alley, which is technically not allowed, but it happens all over. So even if somebody wanted to use it, they probably couldn't unless there were some changes made. The city does not, as practice, install or maintain alleys. We have a few alleys that have been put in with TIF money in certain areas of town. So it's not like the city has a project and we're getting ready and I can look at the list and say, oh, we're going to be putting in that alley in 3 years or whatever, because that's typically not what we do.
Okay, thank you.
Laura, can I clarify something? Today, we're being asked not to approve the building design, not to approve the site plan, landscaping, or the closure of the alley. We're simply being asked to make a recommendation on the SPUD design statement, correct?
That is correct. And even though the design statement does have that site plan attached, I want to clarify that the CA would have to comply with the words of the SPUD document, which specify it has to meet the landscaping, because that's the big thing, the landscaping requirement. One of the things you'll notice in the SPUD document is it does reference, it makes a comment that it will provide X number of parking spaces on the site. A SPUD document allows them to reduce the number of parking spaces. In this case, they have the ability, because of the church to the south, they have the ability to actually, well, we've run out of spaces, but they're going to be able to park down there, cross at the intersection if that's needed. I don't know if that would be needed or not, but you are correct in the way you worded that.
Thank you for clarifying.
If there's no more questions, would the applicant like to speak on the item?
Good morning, Dean Kalita, Civil and Environmental Consultants representing the applicant, civil engineers on the project. So for this application, obviously they're trying to improve the area. The use is most of it compatible with the surrounding area. You know, the school and the church there. This is all a community service for, you know, disadvantaged children and families to come and use. With the access to the public transportation, the bus stop, it seems to be a perfect fit for it, hard corner. So the zoning seems to fit exactly what's needed for this area, and it is just an expansion of the existing facility. Obviously the parking spot to the north, they bought that to be able to park this. The parking spots that we provided on the site plan, we tried to max out as much as we could, which seems to fit what they need for parking. So they do have the option of potentially, and they've already talked to the church about, utilizing parking over if needed, but for their needs, they think that the parking that we provided is sufficient for their uses. And then also, in regards to the landscaping, we've tried to maximize the number of landscape islands we have on there. So anything that we didn't need for parking, we put some landscape islands. So we're going to meet most of the requirements. Of course, we'll go through those details when we get to the site plan part of this. And if there is something that we have to change, we'll definitely update the site plan to do that, which shouldn't affect it too much. I think we're pretty close on getting the landscape points and the islands and everything. We did add some islands on the recommendation of staff, especially on the far east side, to meet the street trees and the 75 feet from every parking spot, you have to have a tree. So I think we meet all those requirements for the most part, meet the intent of the code anyway. But we'll work through that and get all those details worked out when we get further into this. In regards to the alley, there is the overhead utility. I think on the revised site plan, we do have it shown and surveyed in. It's kind of on the north side of the alley there. And we'll work with the utility company to make sure if there's a power pole, we'll get it removed, anything like that. But I think it's going to be, usable. It's going to be utility easement, so the city will still have the use to maintain the sewer manholes and the sewer lines within the easement, along with other utilities that are in there. So if the vacation of the right-of-way is granted, we will also be dedicating the easement through there, so it's still usable as it's being used now. And as you can see up to the north and south, there's utilities through there. It's really more of a utility easement than an alley, so we're kind of codifying the fact that what the use is now. And if someone was going to go and use the alley, obviously it's blocked by trees and fences, and the only way that's going to probably be improved to be a true alley is if someone was to buy all those properties and redevelop it. So, which we don't have control over, but essentially, and also if you go to the east, go straight into the school property, that I'm not sure what they have plans for on their expansion or whatnot, but I would doubt they want a public alley running through their schoolyard. So I think the likelihood of that being used as an alley is very low. It'd take a lot of changes and a lot of infrastructure improvements to make that happen. So I think the vacation of the alley is, it's reasonable if granted at the next application stage, and it'll still be used as the intent it is now. So that's kind of our take on the alley portion of the deal. And they'll still have access through the site there. It'll be an access easement and utility easement, so they'll still be able to use it up until the east side of our property. So the intent, I think, there to use that is intact. And then, obviously for the site plan, we talked about that. We can make adjustments as needed. I don't think there's going to be much that's needed. It's pretty tight sites. We try to maximize as much as possible. And then, of course, some of the specifics in the plan and the SPUD, just reading through those, we didn't vary too many things, but we did have to tweak some things here or there. So, but overall, I think for the location of this, and also in regards to the intersections, we are utilizing the existing driveways. We're just going to widen the one that's on the Pennsylvania side. We're just going to widen that to 24 feet just to give them a little bit more room for egress. But for the most part, we're not requesting additional driveways that are not already there. And then we're not impacting the bus stop there that's on Pennsylvania as well. So, but yeah, I'd be happy to ask any other questions. And did you want to come and talk about from Lilyfield? She'd like to kind of give you an idea of what Lilyfield does and kind of what their whole use is for the building. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Holly Towers. I'm the executive director of Lilyfield. So some of you may be familiar with us, but we actually do operate at that site what we call a family resource center. And so our focus is really to strengthen and provide healthy families for children and youth. And we do that in a number of ways. We have several family resource centers, 2 that operate in South Oklahoma City, 1 in North Tulsa, and a small location in Edmond. So we're really, really proud of our work. Just to give you a sense, we bought a piece of property in North Tulsa in 2020, and have really been able to make a really nice improvement on a building that was dilapidated and abandoned and right there on Peoria and Apache, if you're familiar with North Tulsa. So we're proud of our work to go into communities and purchase properties and really make improvements and be a good neighbor and be a good steward of resources. And so we purchased this property in South Oklahoma City in 2018. It was prior to our owning it. It was the denominational headquarters of a really small church denomination, and they put it on the market, and we were really, really thankful to get to purchase this property, and we have really tried to use it well, and we've utilized it to its full potential, and we have more than outgrown our space there. We've over the last few years rented spaces from some churches. We are active partners with Oklahoma City Public Schools, so we love to walk next door and visit our friends at Student Support Services at Westwood, at the former Westwood Elementary School. They've been a great partner. We did try to explore with the district the possibility of, obtaining some of their property, and that really has not gone anywhere. And so we understand that there are some barriers to that. As mentioned, it is a very tight site plan. We were able to purchase, there was an abandoned house adjacent to us, and it was likely condemnable. We were able to purchase that from someone who, I guess, supposedly been an investor. I'm not completely sure. And we did take that house down. That was in 2019, and have used it as a green space, and certainly are open to the possibility of how else we can improve our neighborhood. We'd love to see a park, or we would love to obtain more property and put in a playground. There's not a park, there's not a safe park in our community. The school took their playground equipment down, so that doesn't exist anymore in our community. So we're really, really open. We're in conversation with some other property owners. We're really open to how we can make improvements for the community. So our goal is to have, a fully functioning family resource center. We have mental health services. We serve in our clinical counseling program, we serve Medicaid and uninsured clients. So our focus is who doesn't have access to services. We want to serve them. We have after-school programs, parent support programs. We have a program that supports women who are pregnant and parenting young children. We have a program for dads and their kids. We have programs for youth doing life skills. One of our goals with our property is to add some more employment-based services, so really trying to help develop skills for youth and parents to improve their employability and their success with employment. So those are just some things about us. We obviously, many of our employees are from the community. So, I'm here as the executive director, but on the ground every day are folks who live in the community, love the community, are dedicated to it, and our goal would only be ever to improve anything we could at that site and in the community in general. And with the parking, there is a bus stop. The number of parking spaces we have is more than sufficient for our day-to-day. We are, good friends with Exchange Avenue. We have used their parking lot in the past. Anytime we have a special event, we have very limited parking as it is. So we have no concerns about the number of parking that we have being sufficient on a day-to-day basis, and if there's ever a time where we need more, we're more than covered. Thank you.
Thank you. This item's open for discussion, or if there's any questions for the applicant.
So I have a recommendation at the end that you can just read if you'd like. We are recommending that you do this with the condition that they add that use, which they have agreed to add, which is the parking lot use. And so as this states, you are providing a recommendation to the Planning Commission. So you are not the final approval body on this.
I'd like to make a motion to provide a recommendation of approval to the Planning Commission on the basis that the project complies with the intent of the Scenic River Overlay Design District zoning ordinance as referenced in Section D of the staff report, with the condition that the MDS be revised to include as a permitted use 8300.13 automotive parking lots as a principal use.
Second, Templeton.
Okay, so that was a Postic Templeton motion. Thank you.
Item passed. Thank you.
And I realize I don't normally do this, but it's all, do any of you need parking? You're good, okay.
Okay. Next item, communications.
We have a meeting on March the 7th. We currently have 2 rezoning cases that have been submitted, one last week, one this week, for straight rezonings within SRODD. So you will be getting an early quorum call email that will show up from CPUD, which is us. And check your calendars so we can confirm that we have a quorum. Katie, did you? Okay. That's all that I have. And I know that sometimes you might have questions about items that we have for administrative approval. And I'm trying to think when I look at this. So, kind of late in the game, but the official approval for the trail that is already out there and functioning and has been for a while is showing up on here. A fence and a sign, and then demolition. That demolition is directly west of Lower Scissortail Park. That's on here. There was a structure that had been added onto. So I don't have anything new on that site yet, but I'm assuming that I probably will soon.
Thank you. Comments from committee members? Well, it's good to see everyone this year. And as we stated before, next meeting, March 7th, 2024. Thank you so much. We're adjourned.